All right, welcome back to my high school football championship series streaming live on Twitch. Just a quick reminder, all 8 of these teams that are being featured in this series are available for download that you can use in your own College Football 26 video game. Simply search for my username down there at the bottom, Dreadman94, and you can download and import any one of these 8 teams into your College Football 26 video game to play as. Take them into your Dynasty mode and see if you can build them into a powerhouse. Remember, when you're searching, to search for the username box and not the keyword search box. All right, so we are in week 3. These are the weekly standings coming out of week 2. Just a quick reminder of what we're looking at. This is already going to be changed for next week, but we've got a matchup of 2 undefeated teams now to close out week 3, and that is going to feature Terrebonne at Ellender. So quick reminder here too, all of these teams to some degree are rivals with each other just for sheer proximity that they all share a very close proximity to each other and they play each other year after year. So there's always a bit of a rivalry between most of these teams, but some teams have bigger rivalries than other. And Terrebonne and Ellender is, I wouldn't call it one of their bigger rivalries, but they are kind of an in-town rivalry where you've got 2 teams both from Homa proper, as opposed to where you've got HL or South Terrebonne that lie kind of on the outskirts of Homa. Terrebonne and Ellender are actually in Homa itself, kind of a east side versus west side matchup, more for bragging rights. It's again, it's not one that I would call one of their bigger rivalries, but it is a bit of a rivalry between the two of them just for that aspect. And back in the day, I know when I was going to school, it was, those 2 teams kind of went back and forth a little bit. I don't know that it's been as much of a competitive rivalry in recent years, but at one point it was kind of a back and forth for a little while. But anyway, that is what we've got lined up for our final game. So here we go. The Terrebonne Tigers at Ellender, although this is one of those teams that shares a stadium with another team. So Ellender's stadium is actually technically South Terrebonne's stadium is where we're going to be going to for this game. But with the magic of video game editing, their field markings will feature the Ellender Patriots logos all over, so it'll look like their own stadium. Here's the matchup that we've got. It should be a pretty competitive matchup. They're two very closely matched teams. And with the storm system rolling through this week, rainy weather is affecting all of our games. And that could have a big impact on Terrebonne, which is a pass heavy offense. They do run the ball. They've got a guy that can run the ball, and we've seen in week 1 he can break those big runs, but they rely heavily on their passing game to move the ball and put points on the board. So will that affect them in this game with Ellender? We're going to have to watch and see how that turns out. But let's get to it. Terrebonne will be wearing their classic away uniform, so they're moving into one of their alternate uniforms. A reminder that all of these teams will be rotating through their alternate uniforms at some point throughout the season. Terrebonne is doing it for the first time here in week 3 using classic away uniforms. This is basically what they wore back when I was there. This is kind of early to mid 90s style uniform that they're going to be wearing. And Ellender will also be wearing an alternate uniform. This is their retro home uniform, something that they wore back in the early 90s as well. So kind of an early 90s looking matchup for these 2 teams. All right, let's get down to it. Enough talk. It is time for the game. We're going to go to an 8 p.m. kickoff under the Friday night lights with rainy conditions in Berg, Louisiana for battle of the 2 home teams, the Terrebonne Tigers versus the Ellender Patriots. I'm going to kick it over to the broadcast booth, and we'll see how this turns out. I'll catch you guys on the other side.
Kicker has everything lined up and about set to get this one underway. Looking for an alley from inside his own 10. Really disciplined job
this offense is built around him. But, Jesse, he's not the guy that's going to take over. He needs the running game to get going. He needs the passing game. He needs a little bit of balance. Really good football player, but he needs the help of the quality teammates around him.
Yeah, you're right. I think the one thing we've seen with this guy is he's got to get into a rhythm in games early, right? And so whether it's running the football or getting a few completions early to get his confidence going, because once that happens, he's very, very good.
You make up the game plan and not a lot on the play sheet for this. 3rd and long from inside their own 20. From the gun, wants to pass. Oh, they really could have used that catch there. Physical pass defense. It brings up a 4th down. After the miss on 3rd down, the punt team is on the field. Return's going to get it up around midfield. He'll be down at the 49-yard line. The matchup we'll be watching in this one really takes you back. Big-time running back going right into the face of a tackling machine at linebacker, David.
Yeah, and we're going to see this individual battle a lot. Not just in pass coverage when they match up, but just meeting in holes. And who's going to win when they go head-to-head? That will be a big factor in who wins this football game. But, Jesse, one-on-one, this is going to be a show.
This is going to be an incredible matchup that's going to go on until there's zeros up on the clock. Both of these guys have circled this game on the calendar because they knew who they were going to be facing. Two guys we know are going to play at the next level, but I think this is probably one of the better individual matchups we're going to see all season long.
Back to throw, it's Dixon. And a missed opportunity on 3rd down as the defense knocks it free, and 4th down is coming up. And the incompletion is an open invitation to the special teams unit to come onto the field. That thing was down for a while, but the big bounce carried it into the end zone, and it'll be a touchback. And the offense back on the field, ready to dial up ball plays. Working that left side now. Nice gain on that play, but a little bit short of the 1st down. Looks as if we have an injury on that last play, and we'll take a break to check him out. And now on 2nd down for this offense. Quick release by the QB. Oh, he's got some space. And they'll spot it at the 38, and that'll be plenty for the 1st down. Here's this offense with a fresh set of downs. Leaves it with the running back. And there was nowhere to go, just stopped in his tracks in the backfield. Lost 1 on that last one. It's 2nd and 11. Wants to go up top. Here comes the heat. Third down, and they need 15 after 2 negative plays. Looking downfield, and he needs a bunch. Going to throw it over the top of the deep. And it slips through his fingers, incomplete. That would have been a huge gain if he could have held on. Punt is in the air. Fair catch is signaled and made, and they'll go to work from the 27-yard line. And the offense takes over to dip into its bag of ball plays. They'll run it out of the shotgun. He picks up maybe a couple before he stopped right at the 30-yard line. Picked up 2 yards on that last one. They need 8 on 2nd down. On the move, it's Crawford. Got enough for the 1st. Still on his feet at the 45. Racing to the right. And he's in for the score. Touchdown.
I love the execution on that play. Great blocking up front just to get the ball carrier an opportunity in the 2nd level of the defense. And then at that point, it was make a guy miss and use the speed. That was a perfectly executed play.
Setting up for the extra point after the 1st score of the game. And the extra point is good, and it's 7-0. Only took 2 plays to find the end zone on
football, had time, spins the ball deep. Nice job by this offense, understanding what the defense is giving them and creating the explosive play.
As they get set to snap it, time winding down here in the quarter. To the ground with the back. Oh, what a move. And he steps out of bounds, and that's going to do it for the first quarter. think they're going to run that one back in film study. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's a penalty. That's a penalty. That's a penalty. It'll be a long film study for him. This one's complete. He stopped just a chain link or two away from the first down and sets them up beautifully here.
When you play zone and you drop back, you're dropping back to a spot, and that means there's going to be holes, and the quarterback has to do a good job of reading it, seeing it, throwing it between those holes. He does a really nice job there, makes the defense pay for playing zone coverage.
They bring him down, but not before he's able to pick up the first down. So they move the sticks on the run. Let's see what they do with this one.
And the defense gives up the first down. And oh, here they go. They're going fast. No time to substitute. Got to communicate quickly and get back on the line of scrimmage.
Lost one on that last one. It's 2nd and 11. Looking to fire. With the catch, it's Johnson. He'll get it inside the 40. They'll mark it at the 39 before he goes out of bounds. From the gun on 3rd down. Got his man. Working their way closer and closer. A 3rd down conversion, and they've got it at the 26. Running back searching for a hole. He's stopped after a 1-yard pickup at the 25. After picking up a couple at 2nd and 8. One back in the backfield. He gets the carry. And he never had a chance. Just stopped cold as soon as he got it. On 3rd down, he drops the throw. He'll take a shot. Oh, he had it. The deep ball was there, and it just trickled through his fingers. And they'll send the field goal team back out for the 2nd time tonight. Never a doubt. Right down the middle. That'll trim the deficit to 15.
And you want a touchdown and you want to be aggressive, but man, right down the middle, that obviously gives me some confidence down the road that I can trust this guy.
They were able to get a field goal on the board, and now they'll kick it away. He'll start the return inside his 5. And he's able to pick his way through the traffic nicely for a good return on that one before he's brought down. Dropping back, it's Dixon. Unloads it left. Pulls it in, it's Diggs. He gets those chains moving, gets it out to the 42-yard line.
It's a nice play call there. You've got 2-possession lead. You're trying to keep the defense guessing, right? Because you've got that lead. They know you're going to run it, but you still have got to be able to sprinkle in some shot plays and some vertical throws. That was really, really good thinking on that last play call by the offense.
Complete. Stopped at the 47-yard line. A 10-yard gain, and they'll move the markers.
The defense has got to be able to make a play at some point here in the 2nd half. You're down 2 possessions. You need to steal a possession badly. You need to have a takeaway. The coverage is going to have to be way tighter than on that last throw. Otherwise, this offense is just going to go up and down the field.
It's a draw. This has been happening all night. They stubbornly keep giving him the ball, and the defense is all over it. 2nd down, they'll go to the air. Missed his receiver there. It's incomplete. They couldn't connect on 2nd down. Now staring at a 3rd and 9. From the gun, wants to pass. He's going for the big play. position and make the fair catch at around the 35. And let's see what kind of ball plays this offense has ready. The give out of the gun. And they picked up 9 on first down. It'll bring up second and short. They'll move the wide receiver. Little touch pass to the receiver. And he runs into a wall. Maybe got it back to the line of scrimmage. Third and short from the 44, and we might know if they
sack.
Now a lot of work to do to move the chains, keep this drive alive after that earlier sack. On 3rd and long, hoping to throw beyond the sticks. Pulls it in, it's Ross. He's going to come up a couple of yards short of the first down. Down by multiple possessions, you can't come up empty on this drive. They'll go for it on 4th down. Slip, and he's sacked. A big play on 4th down to stop this drive.
All right, so they fail on that 4th down, but the game is not over yet. There's still time. Defense has to get the ball back quickly. Offense is going to have to score quickly. You have to execute now.
Now this offense is back on the field. They really didn't move the ball at all the last time they had it, hoping for better fortune this time around. They'll keep it on the ground. The clock is on their side. They make the stop after a gain of 3 to the 31. Time is on their side, and they're going to wind that play clock all the way down. Out of the gun, they give to the back. Got behind those pads and picked up 3 out to the 35. Looks as if we have an injury on that last play, and we'll take a break to check him out. These are the types of plays where offenses impose their will. 3rd and short from the 45. They'll stick to the ground looking for the marker. They thought they could just run it on 3rd and short, but this defense was there to make the stop. And here comes the punt team. Tries to find a little more running room on that return, but he'll be stopped at the 36. Use the play fake, now to throw. Grab behind the line, it's Robinson. He is going nowhere. Stop at the line of scrimmage.
Nice job by this defense creating that negative play. That's what all defenses want to do. But look at this. This offense, they ain't scared. Right back on the ball, ready to run another play, ready to make this defense work.
It'll be 3rd and long. From the gun, wants to pass. He lost it high and deep down the left side. Oh, he had it. The deep ball was there, and it just trickled through his fingers. Coach has no choice here. The offense has to stay on the field, down multiple possessions this late. 4th
All right, that does it for week 3, and Terrebonne remains undefeated by defeating Ellender 21-6 in a interesting game. The weather played a bit of a part in this one, I think, for sure. But of all the games this week, I was expecting this one to probably be the most competitive, the closest one, and it just didn't work out that way. That's just how it goes sometimes. But let's go through the stats real quick for anyone who wants to keep track at home. So we're going to start with Ellender passing stats here. Justin Billiot, kind of a rough day throwing the ball this time around, had the interception. Couldn't quite get it in the end zone today. Move on to rushing stats here. And again, tough sledding for the running game. Just tough sledding all the way around. Terrebonne jumps out to an early lead and never really relinquishes it. Never really relinquishes control of the game. To be honest with you, Ellender had a few moments there, but it was just got off to such a slow start in the first half. They finally got a drive there towards halftime, but only got 3 out of that one, and just weren't able to capitalize on some of their opportunities. Terrebonne, on the other hand, was able to actually move the ball through the air relatively efficiently. Um, maybe not their most productive. We'll see here in just a second. We'll look at their stats and see what those stats look like. But also, Terrebonne, some big plays on the ground for sure. They had a real big run by Mike Crawford there, the backup running back, number 12, who showed that he can rip off a big one too. So they've definitely Terrebonne has definitely got a lot of talent on offense. They're going to be a difficult team to uh, to take out here in this series. And a solid defense. Those defensive ends really putting a lot of pressure on the quarterback. A bit of a trouble with their kicking game though today. They had I remember in week 1 they had a couple of field goals that were blocked in week 1, and then they kicked several field goals last weekend. They made quite a few field goals last week in week 2, but here in week 3 again 2 missed field goals. So kind of up and down with their kicking game. That could be something to keep an eye out for. So here's the passing stats for Terrebonne and Brian Dixon. Solid day. I mean, heck, 60%, 172 yards, and a touchdown with no interceptions. That's a solid performance. Not up to their standards. So, again, not quite as productive, but this is a very pass happy football team. They rely on the passing game more than anything else to move the ball offensively. So, usually you see those passing yards up in the 280 range, 280, 300, and a couple of touchdown passes. So, not as productive, but they got the job done and were still able to move the ball fairly well in this wet weather. Kenyatta Celestine here with 14 attempts, only 9 yards rushing, so he had a tough time running the ball and getting out. I saw 1 or 2 good runs from him, but for the most part, they had him bottled up pretty well. Michael Crawford, on the other hand, had that tore up that really big run for the touchdown. That was a big play that he had. And then receiving yards, some solid performances by the receivers in this wet weather. Alvin Celestine and Chris Diggs, the top 2 receivers, almost identical numbers here. 5 catches for 72 and 73 yards apiece. Neither one could find the end zone, but made some really clutch catches in that game. And then we had the 1 touchdown catch by the tight end Melvin Piku down here. There's a catch by Kenyatta out the backfield. Go to the blocking stats, and then we'll hit the uh, defensive stats here real quick. And when your free safety is one of your top tacklers, that's probably not a good sign, but the defense did hold up well in this one. So let's go through these real quick. And we did have a turnover. We had an interception earlier in the game. We'll look for that here. Where was that at? Did I pass it? I think I passed it already. Yeah, there it is. Yep, right here. There's the interception. And then kicking stats 0 for 2 on field goals. And punting stats for this game. And one of the big plays was the kick return. Alvin Celestine had a 91-yard kick return in this one in that pouring rain. All right. So that does it for this game. Interesting matchup. And yeah, Terrebonne stays undefeated, which means next week we're going to have another battle of two undefeated teams as South Terrebonne remained undefeated as well. So, a bit of a spoiler there. If you haven't seen the week 3 action yet, go back and rewatch them and take a look at those games. I'm going to go to my pause screen here and then we'll be right back in just a minute to wrap all of this up. Stay with me.